Tonight we hear the great story, actually. It's beautiful, but it's hard to hear. The story of poor man Lazarus and the rich man. So poor man Lazarus is at the rich man's door. And the rich man would have to pass by him, I guess. Maybe step over him, or maybe avoid him. What did the rich man see? When he would put his eyes over toward Lazarus, what did he see? Did he see a problem? Did he see someone in his way? Did he see a money vacuum, right? If I give him something, he'll just take more. What did he see? We don't know. But we know what he didn't see. He didn't see a man. He didn't see his brother. Not his blood brother, but they were both presumably Jewish. He didn't see his fellow Jew, his brother. Why not? Why couldn't he see his brother, poor, in need, while he had wealth to spare? Well, the short answer is, if we kind of summarize the Gospel of Luke, his money lied to him. His money lied to him. Now, we might say, well, you're personifying money. Money doesn't talk, but in our perception of it, it kind of does. His money lied to him, but it was his attachment to his money, or at least his attachment to what his wealth could bring him, that kind of lifestyle. His attachment to that caused him to fall for the lie. It's possible to have money lie to us and say, no, I don't believe you. But if we're attached to it, we will fall for the lie, and he fell for it. And falling for that lie, his concern for his wealth was greater than his concern for Lazarus. And in the spiritual life, both in the Jewish and in the Christian tradition, we diagnose that as idolatry. That is, to take something beneath you and to raise it above you. Or in this case, to take something that is placed underneath us and to raise it above our brother. So that the rich man, when he saw Lazarus, he couldn't see the image of God in him because he was blinded. He was blinded by the idolatry. That's what idolatry does. It blinds us, it makes us deaf. There's a great psalm, right? And in the Psalms, here Israel sings this. It's a description of idolatry. And they're talking about idols, wooden idols, golden idols, whatever, made of stone. It says they have eyes, but they cannot see. They have ears, but they cannot hear. They have mouths, but they cannot speak. And then it goes on for a few other characteristics, and then the end line is telling. It says, and their makers will come to be like them, and so will all those who trust in them. So an idol might have eyes of stone or gold or wood, but it can't see anything, it can't hear anything, can't say anything. But the point of the psalm is, neither can those who trust in the idols. Because to trust in something, to put our trust in something that is beneath us rather than above us, is to die. It's to begin to die. And when we're dead, humanly dead, not just animal, we can be walking around like an animal, right? But to be humanly dead, we can't see, we can't hear, can't speak. We become like the idols. Why is this? God formed out of the dust of the earth, he formed Adam, and then he breathed life into him, right? God gives his own breath to the dust of the earth and creates Adam. And so Adam is a living being. And God creates Adam, and Adam is very good, and he places him over all of creation. All creation at that point has been created in an orderly manner, right? Where you have things, and then you have regions, and you have things ruling over those regions, whether it's the sun or the moon or creatures, and then you have man who rules over them all. And God gave Adam and then Adam and Eve dominion over all of this. And it's this breath that he breathes into them that gives them life. And so man is at the top of all creation. And man receives life from God. So when man looks up to God, to worship God, to recognize God, to be in communion with God, we continue to receive that breath. We continue to worship him with our own breath, and we remain alive and become more alive and more free. We become more human. But all the things that are underneath us that are meant for us not only to use, but to direct toward God, all the creatures, it's man's responsibility to direct them to be able to live in a way that glorifies God. All of the things in the earth are meant to glorify God. It's our job to arrange these and lead these in such a way that all creation can worship the Lord under man's authority. And idolatry is when we take something that is beneath us, that we're supposed to order toward God, and we put it above us, and we reverence it, or we trust in it. And it messes everything up. And we cease to receive that life from God, because life can't be taken. We can't just get it. I want life. You can't just go out and get it, like happiness. If you chase after it, you never catch it, because happiness is always a side effect of actually doing things that matter. And so life, the same way, when we worship the Lord, we receive life. But if we try to just go out and grab life and get a hold of it and get what we want, we lose it, because the things that we've grabbed a hold of, we place our trust in those things to give us life, and we become like the idols. We cannot see, we cannot hear, we cannot speak, because life cannot be taken. It can only be received, and God is the one who gives. And so in this parable, we see this rich man, and he doesn't see Lazarus. Why not? Well, he has eyes, but he cannot see Lazarus. He has ears, but he cannot hear Moses and the prophets. Right? He has a mouth, but he doesn't speak up for Lazarus or anyone else. Instead, he's afraid. He's afraid of losing what he has. He doesn't want to give something to this Lazarus, even though he sees him there as whatever, however he sees him. He doesn't want to give anything up, because he says, no, this is mine. And sometimes it's a greed, I just want more, but sometimes it's a fear of losing it, a fear of losing control, a fear of not having enough, or at least not having enough to make me happy. And so that fear of not having the wealth means that his relationship to his wealth is fear, or also an attachment where he places his trust in it to bring him happiness, to bring him comfort, to bring him the life that he wants. Now, we can hear the Gospel of Luke many times. It says, don't get attached to your wealth. Don't let it deceive you. And so we might say, as Christians, we might say, the ones who listen to this story, and say, okay then, I don't want it. Let me get rid of it. Let me get rid of my wealth. But if you don't want it and you're getting rid of it, are you afraid of it? But if you're afraid of it, then what's the difference between that fear and the man who's afraid of losing it? You're afraid of losing it, you're afraid of keeping it. What's the mistake on both of those? That our focus is on the money and not on the man, whether it's Lazarus or Jesus. Our relationship is to God. And God created man in his image. That means that my brother, or Lazarus, even my enemy, has the image of God in him. So Lazarus had the image of God. But the rich man couldn't see that. St. John talks about that when he says, don't hate your brother, because if you hate your brother and you say you love God, you're just a liar, he says in his first letter. He's really saying this: if you can't see the image of God in your brother, then you can't see God. This is what John means when he says you cannot love God whom you do not see if you cannot love the brother in front of you. And so, what did the rich man see? He didn't see the man. But that's exactly it. We are called to see the man. Because why? Because then anything that we might be able to give to him, anything the rich man could have given to him, would have meant that he let go of his trust in whatever it was he let go of and gave to Lazarus. He let go of his trust in that thing or that amount or that bit of something to bring him happiness, and he gave it to Lazarus. You know, last week in the parable, Jesus talks about the steward who, he's in charge of all his master's things, and then his master says, hey, by the way, I'm going to fire you. And he says, oh no, I better do something. So he starts lowering down all his master's debtors. He starts lowering down their debt to make way for himself. But Jesus tells this moral at the end. He says, you cannot love both God and mammon. You cannot love them both. You serve one or the other, but you can't love them both. And then he says this. He says, wherever your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Now, it seems to me in our experience, we might say, well, if I love something of value, someone, or some cause that has to do with people and their well-being, then I give to that. I work for that. I support it financially. I volunteer for it, whatever. I invest in that because it's a person of value. And so I'm, if you will, trading up. What my time is worth, this person is worth more. I'm trading up by volunteering, by helping them. Whatever my money is worth to me, to them it's worth more because of what it does for their life. So I'm trading up. I'm giving it to them. And that leads everything in the right direction toward God when we trade up like that. But this where Jesus says, or where we say often that where I love something, when I love someone, I put my treasure there. Jesus says that in reverse. He says, wherever your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So in other words, if you decide, for whatever reason, to put your treasure towards someone's good, your heart will follow. Your heart will follow. Because where you put your treasure, amazingly enough, our heart is attached, and it goes there. And so we might look at this man and say, he didn't have any compassion on the poor man. He didn't have any compassion on Lazarus. How could he have had more compassion on Lazarus? If he would have given him something, even a little sacrifice to give to Lazarus for Lazarus' good, a piece of the rich man's heart would have gone with it toward them, and Lazarus would have had even a small sliver of the rich man's heart, and it would have changed everything. Because where your treasure is, there your heart will follow. So, if lifting up my brother requires some sacrifice of me, some effort, some letting go of whatever it is I might be trusting in or hoping in, if giving that to someone else brings my heart with it, then my heart begins to change. And that's really the cure for idolatry. The cure for idolatry is to let go of the lower things and to offer them upwards, right? Toward God and toward those who also, together with me and you, bear the image of God in their humanity. And if we can see the image of God in them and we can invest in them, we can trade up whatever it is that's beneath us, then our heart goes with that. A conversion of heart is hard. It's not easy. We can't just sort of make a conversion happen. It's a grace of God, but we can cooperate with it. A long tradition in the Catholic Church is almsgiving. Matter of fact, it's not even just exclusive to Catholicism. Almsgiving is to give to those in need something that I have, but almsgiving specifically is to make some kind of sacrifice to give to those in need. Why? Because a piece of our heart goes with it. So how could the rich man have loved Lazarus more? He could have helped him, and it would have changed his heart even a little bit, even some would have been better. You know, our eyes can get filled up with all kinds of things in this world, whether it's money or wealth or whether it's all the things it can buy. I like cars, right? You know, not really race cars, but, you know, I have my preferences, right? My eyes can get filled up with that stuff. That's good, right? I love music, and so I can fill my ears and my mind up with that and sort of forget about everything else. All these things are good, especially music. It's good. It's a creation of God, but it's not above man. It's something that man can offer. It's something that man can develop and nurture and grow and offer to God and to one another. But if we sort of get stuck in those things, if we get lost in those things, our ears get filled up. Our eyes get filled up with the things of the world, and we can't see and we can't hear. We have eyes, but we cannot see. We have ears, but we cannot hear because we're falling into idolatry. That was the rich man's problem. His money lied to him, and his desire to have what money could get for him allowed him to believe it. That's the lure of it. And so for us, the Lord offers us a big challenge. And it's not some formula, give more and you'll be happier. I have a friend who says, I tell my brother that, give more and you'll be happier. And he said, so my brother went and did that. He said, I gave a bunch to this organization and now I'm waiting for God to bless me. When's it coming? It's been 6 months, where God needs to get with it. And my friend says it doesn't work that way. That's not how, it's not a trade, right? It's a letting go of. It's a putting things in right order by taking whatever we have under our control, under our authority that is beneath us and trading up for something or someone who is of greater value, greater dignity, and orient them and everything beneath us toward God. And that begins with this particular challenge. Do you see everyone? Or there are people you don't see, don't hear? Let me give an example that's a little different, but it's going to help us illustrate the filling up of the eyes and the filling up of the ears. So ladies, especially you young ladies, right? You want the guy to notice you. So you dress up all nice and show a little skin over here and a little skin over there, right? Get everything all great, and the guy notices you, right? And you fill up his eyes with your most obvious beauty. What happens to him? I'll tell you what happens to him. He can't hear you. His ears disconnect. So you've filled his eyes up with attention for you, but he can't hear what you're saying because his eyes are filled up with the wrong thing. And it's not that the wrong thing is you. No. It's that which is easiest to see about you. It's the glitter. And so, if you will, modesty, that is not showing things to excite, right? Not showing things to grab attention. Modesty is not the covering up of things, but it's when you look at someone, you look at the guy, you say, I insist that you notice who I am. I don't want you to just see me with your eyes. I want you to hear me. I have a brain. I have a life. I have a heart. I have dreams. And I want you to hear those. And if you want him to hear those, don't fill up his eyes with the obvious beauty. hold back a little bit and let him hear you. Now, guys, you're like, oh, great, throw us under the bus. I'm a guy, right? And it's not that it's a defect so much, it's a characteristic of men, whatever it is. What changes that? A conversion of heart. And as I said at the beginning, you can't rely on a conversion of heart. It's like, well, I'll convert later. Doesn't work that way. You can't manipulate the heart like that. We have to anticipate what it is that's good and do it and pursue it. And when we find ourselves on the wrong path and God reveals that to us, we can convert. But if we plan on converting later, we're already hardening our heart. And so, what does the Lord call us to? To see the human being, to see the image of God and the dignity of this person, and not just what is obviously glitterally beautiful to fill our eyes, or what is difficult to see that we're afraid will fill our eyes, and so we look away.